Now this year, over 5 million American kids will be bullied at school, online, on the bus, at home, through their cell phones, and on the streets of their own towns, making it the most common form of violence young people in this country experience. The Bully Project follows 5 kids and families over the course of a school year and gives an intimate glimpse into homes and classrooms, cafeterias, and principals' offices, offering insight into the often cruel world of the lives of bullied children. As teachers, administrators, kids, and parents struggle to find the answers, the dire consequences of bullying through the testimony of strong and courageous youth is examined. Through the power of their stories, the film aims to be a catalyst for change in the way we deal with bullying as parents, teachers, children, and society as a whole.
The last couple of days, we had heard that Tyler had his head shoved into a wall locker. They said he's a geek.
My concern is that you were making someone feel so uncomfortable that they didn't want to be in school.
I feel kind of nervous going to school because I like learning, but I have trouble with making friends.
They said he's a geek. Some kids had told him that he's worthless, to go hang himself. And I think he got to the point where enough was enough.
Tonight, a tragic situation.
A Perkins boy, just 11 years old, believed to have been desperate enough to take his own life.
This is an awfully complicated and difficult issue.
Kids will be kids, boys will be boys. They're just cruel at this age.
Here what we get is nothing's wrong, we didn't do anything, everything's fine.
They punch me, strangle me, take things from me, sit on me.
Give it to him hard!
He's not safe on that bus. I've been on that bus. They are just as good as gold.
My voice is not going to fall silent. I will go to my grave until a difference is made.
We reached out to parents that have lost kids, parents of kids that are being bullied all over the world, and it took off like wildfire.
All it takes is for one person to stand up.
Be the difference. Go out and find that one child, that new kid standing over there by himself. Be willing to stand up for him.
Everything starts with one and builds up. Eventually we have an army.
If we all do it together, we will change the world.
Powerful stuff. I'm now joined by Dawn Cheshire, RN Supervisor at the University of New Mexico's Children's Psychiatric Hospital. Hi, Dawn.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being with us to talk about this very important topic. And let's begin this whole discussion by asking you, how do children even become bullies in the first place? Is that behavior something that's learned?
That's a really interesting question because the problem has become so pervasive that there are actual research projects going on now to determine whether or not it's an evolutionary process or if there's a genetic component. What's interesting about that is many kids who are bullies do have underlying psychiatric issues like attention deficit disorder, anxiety disorders, conduct disorders, oppositional defiant disorders, and those do have a genetic component.
Right. So would bullying as a result of those disorders become a subconscious or a conscious choice of these children?
Both, because a lot of them, especially a child who has a social anxiety disorder, is trying to make order of their world, and they feel out of control, and so they do what they need to do to have some little bit of control. Also, they may come from backgrounds of being bullied themselves.
Right.
And so if you look at statistics, a lot of kids who become violent or aggressive have been bullied.
Well, one of the things that's so disturbing, and we hear this a lot, is that the effects of bullies, victims, you know, the victims, these effects last into their adulthood. And so explain how that all works.
Well, I hesitate to think that not all of us have experienced bullying at some point in time. But a lot of it has to do with inner resilience, and inner resilience is built in supportive family systems. So again, a lot of it has to do with where the kid comes from. People who don't have a lot of inner resilience do end up having difficulties in later life. They have problems with relationships. They have post-traumatic stress disorder. They have anxiety disorders. They have depressive disorders.
So these are the ones that are being bullied. Now, what about the effects of bullying on the bully themselves?
Well, if you look at FBI statistics, 60% of children and adolescents who were bullies do end up being problems for society. They end up with criminal backgrounds, and they end up in prison. And what's key about that is what that does to our society, because it costs so much money to house them.
Good point.
And it costs money to prosecute them. So it's really something that needs to be addressed now when they're young, so that they don't have those psychosocial issues as adults.
Such a good point. And, you know, I guess so one of the biggest questions on everybody's mind is, how do we prevent that? What's the point? I mean, what's the best way for us to do that?
Well, first of all, we need to catch them in the act.
Okay.
And a lot of bullies are very smart, and they fly under the radar, and they know where to be so that they don't get caught.
Yes.
The next thing is once you have caught them, is to focus on that child's behavior, not on the child himself, and don't victimize the child, because if you put them in a position where their entire identity is kind of evolved into what they've been doing, it becomes an even bigger problem. So we want to identify the problem, address the problem, and then find something that child does well, and get them highlight that and promote that, so that they can be successful in something.
So as a parent, I mean, how could you advise them of the right time to intervene?
I think if you think your child's being bullied, as being a target, it's really important to get together with the school, the principal, the teacher, the counselor, and have a little come to Jesus meeting.
And they really need to do that. So how should parents of a victim address the issue specifically? I mean, would you be able to give them a specific tip?
I would make sure that they talk to their child about never being by themselves. Stay within their circle of friends, because bullies don't typically target a group, they'll target an individual. So make sure that your child has a buddy. Make sure that your child feels empowered to support himself in being assertive and saying, you have to leave me alone, I'm not doing this with you. And then be supportive of them at home, because they need a safe place to land at the end of the day.
So true, so true. So now let me ask you real quickly before you go, what's being done to resolve the problem right here in our own community?
Well, shows like yours, because you have brought this to the public for the last almost year. I know that Sandia High School has now, the students have started a support group to promote. My question is then where's senior leadership and APS in that process? Because they really are going to have to get involved, because this is no longer a boys will be boys or girl drama issue.
So true.
It is interesting, though, that girls are becoming more and more aggressive, and they're being diagnosed with conduct disorder more frequently than boys are at this point. Yes.
That's interesting. So can parents reach out then to the Children's Psychiatric Hospital and get information so they know how to deal with this better?
Sure. And if you think your child is at risk for suicidal or homicidal ideation, the first thing to do is call your doctor and get a referral to a behavioral health specialist. If it's imminent, absolutely call us and we'll set you up.
And all the information, of course, is on the screen, and it's so good to have it handy. It's really important, no matter what, that we take care of our kids first and foremost and teach them the right lessons as they're young.
Absolutely.
So they grow up to be respectable adults. Thank you so much, Dawn.
Thanks for
really
having
appreciate that. And I want to mention that Bully opens in select cities today, but we haven't found a theater in New Mexico showing the film yet, so we will certainly keep you posted once we do. Thanks again, Dawn.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
And coming up next on New Mexico Style, Kristen is live from the New Mexico International Auto Show. Don't go away.